right? You got to know you. And the more you get to know you, not the version of you you're trying to be, not the version of you that other people are trying to get you to be, which happens, and both of those happen all the time, right? You're trying to be someone you're not, and other people are trying to get you to be who they want you to be, right?
Yeah.
And the more you just know you, right, you just really get comfortable in how you're wired, now you just leverage all of you to the best of your ability. Well, welcome to the Advancing Leader podcast. My name is Chris, and today I have Bevan sitting with me to have this leadership conversation. Bevan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It's great. That you wanted to jump in. And why don't you share with everyone, because you've been on an incredible leadership journey yourself. And so share maybe kind of where you started within Tri-County Church and then where you're leading today. Yeah,
I guess before Tri-County, I could back up a little bit. Went to college, got an accounting degree, started in accounting.
And you loved it.
And yeah, like every accountant says, they love it. It was all right, but didn't work out. God had something else, and he just kept stirring in me. This thought like, maybe you could do something within the church, and I didn't know what that looked like. And he totally opened doors and gave me an opportunity to come on the team about a year and a half ago, and it's just been amazing to see, what I thought my journey would look like and where it's at now.
Yeah, and this could be, and we probably should do this. We should do a whole podcast just about that part of your journey, because I remember the first time I think I met you was at a Ruby Tuesdays with Dan, and we were talking with you about a different position that you didn't get, which I'm sure felt amazing to you. Oh yeah, right?
It was very confidence building,
very confident. But look how much better it's gotten. Yeah, right. But we need to. We'll do that. We'll do that soon, because I think that part of your journey is you're trying to suss out what God was doing within you, but how you're wired and how to leverage all of that gifts and passions. Mm-hmm. And I remember leaving that dinner, and I said to Dan, I'm like, Dan, I believe that Bevan needs to be on the team. We just got to find the right position, the right role, and through just the arc of just life. Mm-hmm. And so you stepped on to lead our
downtown campus. I'm the campus pastor down there. Like I said, that was a year and a half ago, which that alone has been a cool journey. Leadership is leadership. Leadership within the church is, a lot of similarities, but way different. And I can just remember heading into that, and just, the first 3 months, it just felt like, man, I was in survival mode. So that, was overwhelming, exciting, everything in between. And it's just been really neat to, kind of continue on with that journey in God and with Tri-County and just what he's doing through all the communities that we're a part of. It's been amazing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So the heart and the kind of the goal of this podcast is really about helping individual people grow as a leader, to advance as a leader, and in doing so, help accelerate the mission, vision of the church, because the church is the hope of the world, and God put into motion the church, which is people, right? I mean, that's why I love the story about the early church. I mean, just normal people, flawed people, imperfect people, people that didn't have it all figured out. And through that group of people right now, I mean, some 2,000 years later, right, the church is just impacting and changing the world. And so we really wanted to have a conversation about helping individual people in their leadership journey, but also understanding that it's not just about them, it's about them helping to accelerate the vision and mission of the church.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So one of the things we were going to do is just try to break down or demystify leadership.
Okay.
So that's the goal.
Yeah, I love what we have here. Just some really awesome insights. And I think, especially coming from my perspective as a young leader, someone who's pretty new to ministry and leading in that context, these are things that I think every new leader should pay attention to, listen to, and really reflect on, because, if you don't get these things right, it can take you on a wacky journey in leadership. You can really kind of miss the point of what you're doing.
Yeah, so you're 26?
26, yeah.
26. Which I love, because my first kind of full-time ministry role, I was 22. And I was able to step into an organization, a church, very similar to Tri-County, and completely different part of the world or the country.
Yeah.
But it was such a similar kind of ecosystem where it allowed me as a young leader to actually grow. It allowed me as a young leader to win and fail. It allowed me as a leader to figure out who I was. And it was such an incredible, I spent 17 years there where I went in going, I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm not sure if I'm gifted, right? There's all those questions. And along the way, not only was I able to grow, I was part of a church that did so many great things. I just think your position is such a great way to step on, right? As a younger leader, to go, let's go. And it's part of I think the fabric of Tri-County churches. We want leaders of all ages because we can all learn from each other. No matter your age, no matter your stage of life, we can learn from each other.
Yeah. And I love what you said, about creating a space for leaders to fail, to try new things, to succeed and to fail both. I think that's, another insight that as a new leader, you have to have a good mentality on what failing really means. One of the things I processed early on was don't look at it as failure, look at it as trying.
Yep.
Because if you're not trying and you're not failing, then you're not doing anything. And that's just worse. So
yeah, and that would we could spend an entire episode just talking about failure.
Yeah,
and how to learn from it. Some things you just don't learn; it just fail. Right? Like sometimes people get so paralyzed trying to define every aspect of failure. Like, man, it just failed. Right? Like it just didn't work. Like move forward. Who knows? So
I'm excited to get into some of these, like these insights to demystify leadership. I think, another great way to think about it is just calling out on truth in leadership, calling out stuff that is just not what it seems, maybe calling out some of the stereotypes within leadership that have just been around for too long. And I'm excited to shed some light on that. So we'll start with number one. Number one is you have to be charismatic.
Yeah, I think that's one that just creeps in people's mind, especially people who are maybe more introverted. They're the personality where they don't walk into a room and everyone just clamors towards them. My dad was a charismatic leader, and I'm not. And so my dad would walk in the room, and the energy of the room and the energy of people, like it would just. He loved every moment of it. And I remember growing up, we'd go to church, and my dad, was in corporate business leadership, but he led and served the church. With all of himself, like. I tell people I'm the closest thing to a pastor's kid without my dad ever being ordained as a pastor, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
But he would walk into church and everyone, my dad would just light up, and I'd walk into church as a kid, a junior high school student, even in college. I'd find the corner, right?
Find the side of the wall, just hang there.
Yeah. Comfortable, like the wall can't talk to you. And if someone walks up, fine, right? Like I would engage in a conversation, but I was never that personality.
Yeah.
And I think people, if you're not that, you see leaders and you're like, oh, you have to be the charismatic leader. You have to be the life of the room. You have to be a big personality. You have to be, there's this image, this perspective that you just start to go, well, I'm not that. And so I'm not that. Well, I can't be a leader. And one of the things we've really are working on is in our definition of leadership. Leadership is simply this: you gather a team of people to accomplish a defined goal, right? So if you can do that, like if there's a defined goal, we are going to accomplish X.
Yeah.
And you have a group of people, and a group of people could be two other people, right? There's three of you. Well, now you're leading them to accomplish that defined goal. And you don't have to be charismatic. You don't have to be the life of the room. You don't have to be a big personality. You don't have to be all of those things. You just have to gather like-minded people that have this similar passion to accomplish something great.
Yeah. Just to go off that, Chris, you're a communicator, you're speaking, you're teaching. How does that fit in knowing how you're wired? Did you ever feel any pressure coming up through leadership as a younger person, looking at other charismatic leaders? How does your natural wiring fit into your communication style, and how can you help other leaders who may be wired more towards the introverted, less outgoing nature to be great communicators and say, hey, just lean on your communication gift. You don't have to be a certain thing. You have to fit into a box.
Yeah. So what's interesting with my communication gift, for me as an introvert, the communication gift like especially on stage, is the safest place because I don't have to interact. Now, I've worked really hard on my introvertedness, so I can walk in rooms now and I can talk to most people are shocked when they hear that.
Yeah.
They're like, no way.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
I could see that.
Right? Like people just don't. But I've really worked on when I walk, even to this day, if I go to conferences that I don't know people, it's like I call it the, the football tunnel, or you play soccer, right?
Yeah.
Right before you go on the field, you're talking to yourself. It's game time, right? Like, and you're hyping up, getting ready for game time, right? There's a switch.
Yeah.
So I still do that to this day. Like I'll go to a conference where I don't know people, and it's like I'm driving in the rental car on public transit, however I'm getting there, and I'm having this conversation like, it's game time, Chris. I walk in, I'm like, yeah.
That's awesome.
So there's that part. But you have to find out how you're wired and what you're truly gifted at, and you just leverage that.
Yeah.
Right. You just got to leverage it. Once you know you, right, you got to leverage that gift set to lead. And when leadership is simply gathering a team of people to accomplish a defined goal, well, just lead yourself that way. My mom, she has the gift of hospitality. You walk in her house and she'll have everything like food cooked and set out and baked and set. I mean, it's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And people walk in, they feel so loved, and like she's just kind of this busy bee around the kitchen setting it. And I've told her, I'm like, Mom, that's your greatest asset as a leader. To just serve people that way, gather them together, and go do something. She's doing this now. She's doing she makes these bags. She has a whole team of ladies across all of Las Vegas. They're making these bags. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of these bags that they give away to different charities, different nonprofits, different organizations. It's amazing. I'm like, that's leadership.
Yeah.
That's leadership. You don't need to stand up on the stage and, give some rah-rah speech. Gather a team of people, accomplish your defined goal.
Yeah, I love that. Especially in our culture where we are so concerned with our wiring. I know you and I had a conversation when I was first brought on staff, and you just encouraged me, hey, figure out how you're wired. And then when you figure out how you're wired, figure out how that aligns with where God wants you to lead and where you can lead best. And I can tell you that journey alone and that just, to be able to run with that thought has helped me so much over the last, year and a half of leading. It's just, I think, such a crucial part of leadership is leading yourself before you start to lead others.
Which, you're right, it leads to the first core idea that gets into the first myth is you have to be charismatic. The core idea is you got to know you.
Yeah.
Right? You got to know you. And the more you get to know you, not the version of you you're trying to be, not the version of you that other people are trying to get you to be, which happens, and both of those happen all the time, right? You're trying to be someone you're not, and other people are trying to get you to be who they want you to be, right?
Yeah.
And the more you just know you, right, just really get comfortable in how you're wired, now you just leverage all of you to the best of your ability. And we all have the weakness side of us, like my introvertedness, I had to get control of.
Yeah.
Right. I had to. If not, it would just been the lid, just be lid.
Yeah.
And so I worked hard enough to kind of shore up that weakness, but I'm still who I am. Like when people want me to come to every party or to every gathering or to every event, right? If you're an extrovert, that fires you up.
Yeah.
You're at every event, every party, every gathering. You're just everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah.
Can't be, right? So I have to be very selective with what I say yes or no to because it's all about energy management. And so I just have to go, well, I can't do everything, but I'm going to do a few select things very intentionally, right? So that know you is everything.
Yeah.
Like you've been really studying the Enneagram.
Yeah, definitely. Right? I'm obsessed with the Enneagram, actually.
So you're a what?
I'm a 3.
Which is?
The performer or achiever.
Okay.
So, we talked about failure earlier in this podcast, which the irony is that's my core fear, is to fail or to look like I'm failing. I'm always worried about how I'm projecting my image out to other people, which is something that with personality, you can know something about yourself and not change it, and it's not helpful. There's self-awareness and then there's self-regulation, which is, not an original thought by me, something I've learned along the way on my Enneagram journey. If you know yourself, but you don't do anything about it, you're not becoming who you are meant to be. You're not knowing yourself. You're knowing facts about yourself, but I think part of the journey of self-discovery is not only knowing you, but knowing who you could be and knowing who God wants you to be as a leader.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a both and there.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, which is
the challenger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I first I took Myers-Briggs years ago. I'm an INTJ. And when I took that, I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
And the more I read about it, it was like, that's me. When I took the Enneagram, it's just interesting because it's just a different way to come at it.
Yeah.
And when I first took the test and I came out to be an 8, I'm like, that's me.
Yeah.
Right. Now there's nuances there. And I always tell people that I'm like, just know like, there's only one you, right? There's only one Bevan. There's only one Chris. Like there's only one, right?
Yeah.
And we all have nuances to that, but it gives you a more defined framework to go, oh, that's why I process like that.
Yeah.
This is why I react this way. Like when you were talking about failure, right?
Yeah.
You start to go, this is why.
Yeah.
I respond like I do, both in stressful situations, right? It reveals that, but also when life's going good.
Yeah.
And that just helps you to understand you. And the more you know you, the more you can actually lead other people, because now you're really vested in trying to get to know them. And when you get to know them, how they're wired, right? They just respond differently, right? They react differently because they're just wired differently than you.
Yeah, that's really good. So the next one we have here is you have to have all the answers.
Yeah, I love Andy Stanley, who leads a great church called North Point. What I love, he always talks about that he's not the smartest person in the room. And leaders don't need to be the smartest person in the room. Leaders need to, again, gather a team of people. And that team of people, you want smarter people than you all the time around you. And you want people with different perspectives all around you. And I think that, again, it gets into this myth that, well, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, I got to know everything. No, you're the leader, and you either drew a short end of the stick, right? like you did, Bevan. Like,
yes,
surprise, or you got there first, right? There's reasons why, or maybe you raised your hand, right? There's a whole host of reasons why a person's a leader, but the real goal is you want to get the right people around you, so you're not the smartest. You don't have the entire perspective, right? Because when you have the right voices around you, now collectively, collaboration, which is so powerful, now you can get there. And when you get there together, there's nothing better than that. And so I fail on this because communication is a gift of mine. So I find myself wanting to speak pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I found this stupid. If you've ever seen this you're going to look for this now. I'm revealing a secret. I did this. I was at a leadership team meeting last week, and I did this. I'll have my notebook, taking notes. And the very top of my notebook, I write a S to S. And I circle it, and it's just an S2S, and actually the 2 looks like a backwards S, right? So it's like,
what is that? Yeah,
and it simply stands for slow to speak. And I'll write it down. I'll come into another meeting where I know that I just need to do a ton more listening than speaking, and because I know me. Right. I know me. I'm a problem solver. I'm a solution solver. Like, I can get there pretty fast. I'll write S2S on the top of my notebook, and it will help me to shut up.
Yeah. I think, something I processed when I first read this, I think there's two sides, and I don't know if they're exactly, on a spectrum like this, but you have two different things. You have insecurity and you have humility. I think a person who is insecure thinks they have to have all the answers. A person who is humble knows they don't have all the answers, and so they seek out people with the answers.
Yeah.
I just think, in going off what you said, that's amazing, because it can be so easy just to respond. I mean, if that's how you process, if you're a verbal processor or you're someone who processes in the moment, you can come up with an answer right away. And then, you're not allowing other people to speak. You're not allowing other people to give the answer. And I think when you get stuck in this trap of thinking you need all the answers, you might give a really bad answer.
Yeah.
And it might not be the right answer.
Yeah. I was talking to a team member several weeks ago, and he asked me my insight. I was in the middle of 4 different, tasks. I was doing an email, I was working on another project. There's a ton going on. He called me, And we were talking about something else. And he's like, hey, I want your insight on something. So I gave a response really quickly. I didn't process. I didn't think. I gave a response. It was a fine response. And that evening, my wife came home, and she had the same conversation with this person, which I love because he was seeking out some wisdom. And as he's navigating just a difficult relational situation, and she goes, yeah, I shared this insight, and I found myself, I stopped, I'm like, oh, that was so much better than my response. My response was stupid. So I called this person back and said, you should listen to her, not me.
That's awesome.
Right. Because I realized, like, in the moment, I didn't take time to just sit in the scenario and go, I should think about this more. I should process this more. I should have told him that it's like, hey, give me 30 minutes or give me an hour or let me call you back this hour. Right? There's a whole list of things I should have done just to and it's not like it was bad advice.
Yeah.
It just wasn't great advice. And when Kim was like, hey, this is what I shared, I literally was like, oh, I'm an idiot because that's genius.
Yep.
But what I appreciated is he called several different people.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Right? Because as leaders, it's about gathering input, gathering ideas, gathering perspective. And then either all that input aligns. When that happens, that makes leadership decisions so easy. When they don't align, it's having to make the hard decision of like, who am I going to listen to, or what am I going to hold on to? All right, what is that? What insight am I going to say? Yeah, I'm going to follow that.
Yeah. So I feel like we really covered the internal aspect of thinking that you yourself have to know all the answers. How would you deal with the external expectation of other people thinking that you need to have all the answers?
Yeah. So how I deal with that, partly because I have a platform most weekends, preaching, teaching. So I get to use that, and all the time I say to people, I don't know everything. I don't know everything's going on around Tri-County Church. I don't know everything going on within all campuses. I don't know everything. I have great teams of people that know everything. They know more than me. They have better perspectives than me. You should talk with them, right? I just call it out and just address it, because it's when people just hear you say it over and over again, like one of the things we say all the time just about the church, we're not the best church, we're not the only church, we're not a perfect church, we're not even a cool church.
Yeah.
We are a church trying to tell all people about Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a loaded statement, right? And I keep saying it because our goal isn't to be the cool church.
Yeah.
Our goal isn't to be the best church. We are very passionate telling all people who don't know Jesus about Jesus.
Yeah.
We're not going to get that wrong. So I just think the more you say it publicly, and again, I have a stage, right, that I get to say it on. But you could say it to your team of people all the time, right, that you get to lead and serve, right? You say it all the time out loud, because as people hear you say it, and then they have to see you live it out, right?
Yeah.
And they see you live it out when they understand that collaboration really is all about the team of people that are gathered together to accomplish the defined goal, right? That is collaboration. When they see that happening, when they hear you say, yep, that was that person's idea. You know what? We came up with this idea together. You and I talking about this podcast.
Yeah.
How many times did I say to you, dude, like I got some thoughts, I got some direction, I got ideas, but share with me, right? And already you started blowing holes on my stupid ideas. You're like, yeah, I wouldn't do that, Chris. That's stupid. Right? Okay, you didn't say it that way, but right away, because it's a value. The value is let's do it together, because together it's always better. And the more you say that out loud and then actually live it out loud, and your team sees you doing that, it's just powerful.
Yeah, and I think ownership creates a space for people to start owning the answer themselves instead of going to you for the answer every time. If you bring someone along the journey with you, hey, we're doing this together, they start to say, oh, well, how am I going to solve this for the team to continue to move the mission forward to get to the goal that we want? Yeah, we were ending our campus leadership meeting just this last week, and the meeting had come to a close. Everyone was packing up. You and I were actually going to go to lunch, and someone on the another campus leader asked me a question,
and I quickly pointed him to you, I could have answered it, right? I had the answer, just because you and I have talked about it for so long. But I quickly said, hey, why don't you talk with Bevan? He has all the answers.
Yeah.
And I do that as much as I can. And sometimes people interpret that like, I don't know what's going on. Well, sometimes I don't. I know generally what's going on. But more than that, it's creating the culture.
Yeah.
Right. I want the person connected closest to that goal, that vision, to answer the question.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, speaking with this person, now they have the answer.
Yeah.
So the question comes from a conversation they have. Now they have the answer. And I think that, again, it's not just you or I, it's also this other person who's going to tell another person. Yes. And then eventually the vision is going to be the vision. And people are going to be able to, more than one person, it's going to be dispersed out. So yeah, the core idea of that one, you already touched on that, but just that thought to listen first, being slow to speak. I think that's crucial, especially when you're new. When I first came on staff, I remember meetings, I don't think I said a word.
You didn't.
For so long, I was just like, I just need to listen because I don't know what's going on right now. And I can't miss anything. I remember feeling like, even if I have something, I'm just going to like hold on to it because I have no idea. And then, from that you get more comfortable. But yeah, if you're coming into a leadership position, like, listening is just so crucial. Yeah. So, all right. Next core idea is you have to make all the decisions.
Which goes into what we were just talking about, right? Listening, gathering your team of people, when you have the right people around you, that makes it so much easier, right? But it's getting the right people around you, which is a whole nother thing, right? I think a lot of people invite people into their leadership circle that just aren't the right people. You touched on humility. Maybe they're just not humble, right? And I'm not saying you isolate people and right. You want to walk with all people, but I'm talking about the people that you draw really close to lead with, right? Yeah. Who those people are. And so I think at the core, on the making all the decisions, you as a leader, your core goal is to make sure that you're aligning the team to the goal. Like if you as a leader don't know where you're headed, right? Then it's just going to wander all over the place. And the clarity of like, no, we're going here. Like as a church, we'll get a lot of things wrong, but we are going to be a church that tells all people about Jesus. We are going to be a church where all people are welcome, no matter where they are, right? And it's going to be messy, and it's going to get messier, and we're okay with all the mess, right? And if you're a Christ follower that doesn't handle messy people, then Tri-County Church is probably not for you. Right? Yeah. Right. But we're just going to be that church because we're not going to get that wrong. We're not, right? Because the ultimate call of the church is to tell people who don't know Jesus about Jesus and walk with them. Yeah. Right. Along the spiritual journey. And so as a leader, you got to own your core goal, vision, whatever that is, because everyone is going to try to, at some level, get you off of that. Like it's just not bad people. Well, some people are bad, but most people aren't bad. They're just right. They kind of see things maybe a little different. I'm just saying there's something about holding on, whatever that goal, that vision is, right? Yeah. That you hold on and that you're extremely clear about. This is what we're about. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're about. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to do, right? And hold on to it and then talk about it all the time. Because clarity is everything. Vision, people have heard this before. Vision leaks. Yeah. It leaks. And so knowing that, then as you as a leader hold on to that, now you can invite people in to help make the decisions around it. Yeah. Right. So it's really about you hold on to that, make sure that's clear. As long as people understand and are aligned to that, now people can speak into it. They can help make decisions, but you're guiding those decisions, right? You're guiding those decisions. And all the time people want to make decisions that take us off. I'm just telling you, they want to take us off mission. And I keep on going, no. We're going to be this church. Yeah. And we're going to hold on tightly to that. And if the decisions that need to be made will help us accomplish that, great. If not, we're not making those. Yeah. I think, something you've shared with me, and I know that you've encouraged all of our staff to do, is over communicate.
I can't tell you how many times I'm like thinking to myself, well, I already sent a text. Like, do I send another message? Do I call them again? I don't want to be that annoying person, but the answer is always, yeah, do it. And even if you feel like you're being annoying, if you're communicating and you're over communicating, clarity is not being compromised because you're just committed to making sure that people know where we're going.
Yeah. Like one of the things I try to do every time I speak, again, I have the opportunity to speak, 40 some weekends a year. And, one of the things I always are trying to do, again, our core mission as a church is to tell people about Jesus, right? For people who've ran away from God, to help them take a step back in. For people that hate religion because of what religion has done to them, to help them understand it's about a relationship. So every weekend, I'm trying to find a connection point for people that don't want to be there, don't want to come, not even sure about God. So this weekend, I talked about at the very beginning of the message, I talked about people at the very beginning of the spiritual journey, and maybe you don't like God, maybe you're angry with God, maybe you got hurt by church a long time ago. I just want you to know that Tri-County Church is a place for all people. If you believe in God, don't believe in God. If you have big questions for God, small questions, right? No matter where you find yourself on the spiritual journey, that there's no questions off limits. There's no doubts that we'll say you can't be here. Like, we are glad that you're here. And Casey, one of our campus pastors, called me and he shared a story about someone who'd just come to church. I mean, it was his story. And he literally talking to Casey, go, that guy, he didn't even know my name. That guy was speaking right to me, right? Because when you're that clear about where you're going and you communicate it, right? Everything now circles around it, right? It always circles around it. And everything you do now helps drive that forward. And I just love those stories because all of that's intentional as a leader. It's just intentional.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna be a church for all people, and actually live that out.
Yeah, and I think to take it even further, we're gonna walk with you, and we're gonna point you to steps that you can take. I love that we have our life path, which just encourages people to take steps closer to Jesus. No matter what that step is, and if there's anything, to connect life path, like it's just what you said in this series, Courageous Endurance. Everyone's on a journey. Mm-hmm. Everyone is on a journey. You're either taking steps closer to Jesus or you're taking steps further away. Yeah. There's no really stagnation in your journey of faith. You're either getting better or you're getting further from God.
There's not neutral. There's not pause.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's always movement.
Yeah. And I think, I listened to a conversation with Donald Miller. I think he was with Bob Goff at a conference, and Bob Goff, he's just this super enthusiastic, just absolutely contagious enthusiasm. And I think he says something like, hey, we're all going to go outside and Don's going to take you outside. And Donald goes, why did you do that? Like, we're in this conference and there's like 300 people. And he goes, well, people want to be led somewhere. And I think when I think of the church, like, people are coming to the church for answers. Yeah. They're coming because they have questions. And if we don't lead them anywhere, they're just going to walk right back out our doors. Mm-hmm. They're going to say, well, I didn't find what I was looking for there. And yeah, we're not going to have all the answers, but if we can at least point them to answers or point them to a journey and say, hey, we're going to walk with you through that, that's what's going to keep people interested in Jesus.
Yeah. And I think it's about the journey.
Yeah.
Right. That every step is going to have new questions, new perspectives, new concerns, new what about that? But as long as you're taking steps with people, right, that becomes such an amazing pathway to be on with people. But we can't make them take steps.
Yeah.
Right. And Jesus couldn't make people.
Yeah.
Right.
He could only invite.
That's all he did. And some did and some didn't.
Yeah.
And even those that did got it wrong.
Yeah. It's very encouraging.
Right. I mean, right. We're coming in the Easter season and it's like, yeah, I mean, he's in a tomb and the disciples are hiding out in a room. Yeah. Right. Like, and then they saw him alive and everything changed. So,
yeah. No, I think that's so crucial, just to know that we don't have to have we don't have to make all the decisions, that we can always just point people to whatever we're leading them towards. So yeah, the next one is you have to be powerful. And I have a question on this one. Definitely, I agree that this can be a myth that people get caught into, but even more so, I think the question that they fall prey to is you have to be in control. So I don't know where your thoughts are on that, if power and control, have any correlation, but, let's just demystify that.
Yeah, I do think power and control have. I think control is the underlying issue.
Oh, okay.
Power is external,
Yeah.
kind of how how it manifests itself.
Yeah.
I think power also manifests itself with deep insecurity as well, right? So you want to get down what's underneath,
Yeah.
right? I've dealt with leaders that were so insecure internally that they externally, led with an iron fist. And when you got into it, you're like, oh, you're not power hungry. You're just so insecure, and you just never dealt with your insecurity, right? Same thing with control, right? Control is the same thing internally.
Yeah.
Where you're trying to hold on to everything. And so the only way you've come to figure out how to do that is externally lead with this power, this hammer where you're just going to drive every decision and be part of everything.
Yeah.
And so I always just kind of try to help people, what's internal that's driving the external. And the more you can solve the internal, right, the other piece always, the power piece usually dissipates because you're helping the person internally really figure out who they are.
Wow. So what would you say to someone who's, I guess everybody has insecurity. Like no one is going to get away from that. So if you have someone who is trying to figure that out, what would be some encouragement you would give someone who's a leader, who's feeling insecure, to find that root issue and to discover what's really going on beneath the surface to then, lead them to a healthier place of leadership?
Yeah. The first thing is if they're not humble, you can't.
Yeah. They won't accept help, or they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. And so humility is that's always in there. And that's why pride is so powerful, right? Pride, Bible talks about it all the time. So it all starts with humility. If they really are humble and they want to focus on them and to know them and to work on them and be open to loving but corrective feedback, like, hey, there's something there. If all of that's there, then you just start having the conversation and say, okay, it's coming out this way. You're walking in meetings and you're just pulling power plays. Like I look for all the time, with the leader, if they have to set at the end of the table, if they have to, that tells me everything. I walk into meetings all the time. I'll move around the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Meeting Tuesday, I walked in. I was the last one in there because I got stopped at another conversation. I had to sit at the end of the table. I'm like, dang it, I don't want to sit at the end of the table. But I'll purposely move my way around the table, and I do that because it communicates a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I worked for a leader that, he was authoritarian, power hungry, sat at the end of the table, would bang the table. It was just all of that. And it's like no one wants to follow that.
Yeah.
No one wants to follow that.
Yeah.
And so I think helping, back to your question, which is a great question, I think helping people go, okay, what's deep rooted, and then what's that connected to? If it's insecurity, what's that connected to? And I'm just telling you, there's and I'm not a counselor, but it's always connected to something somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it could be connected to a relationship with a dad or a mother. It could be connected to a personality weakness, right? Where all of a sudden you realize there's a part of your personality that you've never just focused on and said, I should focus on this.
Yeah.
And just trying to help them maybe start to tease that out and just go, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Let's just go on a journey to figure out the reason why. And the more you circle around it, all of a sudden there's going to be light bulbs that go off and go, oh, I know. Like when I took the Enneagram, it's like, when I get stressed out or I feel like someone's trying to control me or trying to manipulate me, right? That's part of the 8 where I feel it, right? And that's why the S2S, the slow to speak, comes in, right? Where I write it down, it's like, Chris, just take a breath. Just take a breath, right? And the more you really understand, like your personality is a two-sided coin, right? Your strength, but on the flip side is your weakness.
Oh, yeah.
And the more you understand your strength and your weakness together, now that becomes a picture where you can actually start helping lead yourself too. And the more you can share that with someone and divulge that into, say, hey, this is just me, right? Because here's the thing. I share about my introvertedness. And I've had people say to me, right, They've framed in their mind now who I am, and they use it as a hammer, right? And I just don't let them, right? Like you don't get to do that to me, right? But I know the more I share about me, people can take that and do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
I just got to let them do whatever they want with it, right?
Yeah. I love what you said about, the strength being your weakness. I think if there's anything I learned from the Enneagram, it's, the best thing about you is the worst thing about you. Any good thing can be manipulated into becoming a bad thing.
Yep.
You think of, for me, example, a 3, I'm a goal setter. I like checking off lists, but if that becomes all that I am, then I find my worth in what I do and not who I am. Or I just find myself empty at the end of the day of checking things off the list. So the best thing about me is I get stuff done.
Yes.
But if I'm only getting stuff done, then I'm missing out on, my real value, which is just who I am.
Yeah. So let's have fun with this. You're going to love me here in about 30 seconds.
I don't know if I will.
See, I suckered you into this podcast.
That's all right.
So you do. One of the things that we have seen over the last year and a half specifically is you get stuff done, and that's a huge value of mine.
Yeah.
Right. I don't care about work hours. I don't care if you're early morning person or late morning person. What I care about is, do you get stuff done? It's my number one love language as a leader. Get stuff done. And I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I say that. I say it in many different ways. But it's just get stuff done. So you love your checklist, your to-do list to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Now you slide that next to leadership is all about gathering a team of people to accomplish a defined goal, right? It's about people. Leading within a church is about people. Part of your weekly checklist is to call people.
Yeah.
The danger is, the upside is, I know you're going to call everyone.
Yeah.
Because you're going to do that. Because you do not want checklists
unchecked.
Right.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is a person becomes a
task.
Yeah.
I've been processing that over the last couple of months. Actually, I've had some really good conversations, even calling my mom and asking for advice. She led alongside my dad for 20 some years. And so just to be like, hey mom, this is happening. What do you see here? So I do have to be really careful. I have to make sure that I prioritize people over task.
Yeah.
And in my natural wiring, which is not an excuse, is that I do just see task. One of the things that I have to remember is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I called everyone. If I didn't connect with them, it's meaningless. But it's a great point.
Yeah. At some level too, people will know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
And they might not get off the phone and said, I was Bevan's task. Right. Not saying that, but at some level they'll know, are you really genuine or not?
Yeah.
Right. So for me, after every service, we're down front, we're praying for people, we're connecting with people. And one of the things that I really had to work on is, especially when you see kind of a line of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I lock eyes with the person and I don't stop until that person's done. And, if not, I'm thinking about the next person. Then I see someone in the line. I'm like, well, I wonder what they want. Or I've talked to that person. I'm like, I want to get to that person. Right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I start shifting back and forth and I start positioning. Right. And I lock in to people. Right. It's something I've had to work on, because if not, I'm thinking about the person, 3 deep in the line.
Yep. And like you said, people know.
Yep.
If you're not making eye contact, if you're not engaging in conversation, people will feel that.
Yeah.
And then it's just another task. But no, it's a really good point. I think part of my journey again with self-discovery is, and especially the Enneagram, whereas Myers-Briggs, I love both. It's a great assessment on who you are, but I think it leaves you there or gives you an excuse to say, well, this is how I'm wired, But the Enneagram helps you look at some of the parts that maybe hurt a little bit or make you cringe or make you think. And I think, again, if there's a line of people, if I'm not careful and I'm not engaged, I will be thinking about 10 other things that I have to do while I'm having a conversation with a person. So I have to be really intentional, especially on the weekends, this is about people. Yeah. I can get stuff done. It'll be there when I'm done.
Yep.
So I have to just say to myself, don't worry so much about getting things done. Worry more about connecting with people.
That's it.
So the core idea there, we talk about courage, and just unpack that a little bit more, maybe the difference between, power and courage.
Yeah, I think leadership is one of the most difficult things to actually say yes to. And I think there's a lot of people that like the idea of leadership.
Yeah.
But they don't realize the amount of courage that it requires to actually lead.
Yep.
And so people get the power. So they think power is courage. And it's like, no. It's easy to power up. It's easy to yell. I mean, you played soccer, I played soccer. It's easy to stand up on the field and yell at every player.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing to walk up next to a player and call him out, tell him what he's doing wrong, tell him what you see, and say, you got to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? That conversation is so much different, right? I had a coach that just yelled at everyone all the time.
Yeah.
But never walked up to me and said, hey, dude, when you do this and you weren't hustling on that play and you gave up on that play and you didn't look down the field on that play. He never did that, ever. He would yell at everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's power.
Yeah.
Courage looks someone in the eye and goes, no, this needs to be corrected. Right. And I just think there's such a lack of courage just generally. That's why social media. People are so courageous.
Yeah.
Right? It's not courage on social media, right? Like it's just hilarious to me. I'm like going, no. That's just your insecurity, thinking that you can make a statement. Why don't you actually sit down and talk with someone? And I see that all the time, especially in church world.
Oh yeah,
where people don't have courage to sit down, just to have a conversation with someone. Don't have the courage to actually help. You know, our iron sharpening iron means that iron touches iron.
Yeah.
Right? That's where it comes from. Like, you have to be in relationship with someone and love them enough to speak truth and life into them. And that truth and life isn't some power play. It's looking them in the eyes and say, I love you enough. I'm going to help you. It's why I can look at you. What we talked about, the first time we had a conversation, and out of that was no. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, we didn't see a lot in you.
Yeah.
We were just trying to find the right position where we knew you could flourish.
Yeah.
Right. And it probably didn't feel like that at the beginning or at that moment or in the moments following.
Yeah.
But now looking back, right?
Oh yeah.
And the worst thing to do is not have that conversation. So courage, I just find most people aren't willing because it's a choice.
So would you say power avoids tension and courage engages tension?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually a great. That's it. Because power, you just again, it's just you just power up on someone. And courage.
And conflict avoidance looks different too, because some people will barrel through conflict just to get it done. Mm-hmm. Other people will just straight up avoid it and they will just run away. Yeah. But it's still the same. At the heart of it, they're just trying to get rid of the tension.
Yeah. Courage really does. I want to come back to it. It really, you sit in the tension with the person. And you look in the eye and have a hard conversation. And, but that's a choice. When people are like, I'm conflict avoidant. Well, or I avoid conflict. I'm like, yeah, you choose to. No one. Now, I think for some people it's a little easier, little easier. I'm talking like 2% easier. For my personality, it's probably 2% easier. But I'm just telling you, hard conversations are hard conversations. They just are. We don't, as human beings, don't want to have hard conversations. So when someone goes, well, that's not my personality. I'm like, it's no one's personality. No one. Honest conflict or honest conflict, but courageous conversations, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to sit in the tension.
Yeah.
We don't like tension.
We want out of it.
All of us do. Now, again, some personalities more than others, but it's just a choice. And you just can't be a leader if you're not going to choose to be courageous.
Yeah, that's a really good insight. I think it's so easy to just have a cop out with the way we're wired and say, well, I don't like that, so I'm not going to engage in that.
Yeah.
That's for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
or when you sit there and you stare at your phone, you have to make that phone call.
Yeah.
Right. Or you have to set up that meeting to have that one-on-one with that person, and you don't want to, and you keep pushing it off. And right. All of that. It's real. It's real. It's real. But the more you do it, I think this is it. The more you actually engage in it, the more comfortable you are sitting in the tension. And if your heart is really to help the person or help solve the issue, it starts to frame it differently. If your goal is just to power up on someone and show them that you're the leader, well, you're not the leader.
Yeah.
You just have a position.
I think it ties in, with what you said earlier about listening. It takes courage to listen. It doesn't take courage to power up.
No.
It's easy to power up. So yeah, just to tie that back into being willing to listen instead of always having something to say. So the last one here, number 5, is you have to be all things to all people, which I've definitely felt in my initial entry into ministry, into leadership. It's a trap I think that everyone probably falls into, is you think you have to be absolutely everything to all people, which is just untrue. So, what are your thoughts on that, or how have you navigated that in your own leadership journey?
You said it's a trap for every leader. I don't care what your age is, it's the trap. And I think at every stage of leadership and every level of leadership and every position of leadership, as that changes, it continues to be the trap, right? You come into a new position, maybe your leadership scope expands, it creeps up again.
Yeah.
And that's why coming back to knowing you, just who you are, right? Again, you want to be growing, advancing as a leader, right? Growing, minimizing lids, maximizing how you're gifted, right? Minimizing lids, maximizing your gifting, minimizing your lids,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
But the more you know you, that doesn't change. And I just think people start to, at some point, especially as leadership expands, they try to become more aspirational. Like, again, they're like, oh, I get to lead all of this now, and it's grown. I've had some success, and more people are looking at me. And all of a sudden they start to go, oh, I'm like, no, you're still you.
Yeah.
Be you. Jim Collins, wrote In Good to Great and Built to Last. Both those books, well, more than that, but those books really go together. It's amazing because CEOs that really understood who they were, and they weren't even the charismatic leaders. They were just the people that knew who they were, right?
Yeah.
The companies outlast them, right? The charismatic CEOs, they left, companies imploded, right? It was just an interesting thing. And I've always thought about that, going, there's something about the style of leadership, but also knowing who you are and not trying to become someone that you're not. So, you have to know you. I know we've said this, but it's just true. Know you and recognize that people are going to try to shove you into a version that they want you to be.
Yeah.
And it's not you.
Yeah.
Right? People do that to me all the time. They want me to be some version of a pastor / leader / whatever that they want me to be. And I just can't, this is me.
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about all the good parts of me and the bad parts of me, let's do that.
Yeah.
But it's me. And, there was only one perfect person on this earth. That was Jesus. You're not Jesus, correct?
No.
Okay, good. Good answer. I'm not Jesus. So let's just recognize that, right?
Yeah.
And that's why, the church is a body, all different parts, with all different purposes, right? But collectively, it becomes something beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I'm just a part. You're just a part. And the more you recognize your function as a part of the body, the better. Yeah.
One thing, my father-in-law, Dan, who's also on staff, he gave me some great advice when I was first entering into ministry and leadership. He said, there's a couple people you can do life with, and you can pour into them and they can pour into you. And then there's other people where you can connect with periodically and you can walk with them. And then there's other people that you just maybe have like a slight touch on the weekend, or you might just, engage in a conversation and check in, but you can't do all three for all three people. You just have to identify, who can I do life with? Who can I pour into? Who can I be poured back into by? And then, down the list, you just kind of identify and you figure out that from your wiring and the way that you connect with people. A thought I had, throughout this conversation is tethered to what you said, where, when you get to a new spot in your leadership, maybe you have more influence, maybe you have, a newer position, it's easier to get sucked back into these pitfalls, so my question is, do you think these are things that ever get fully accomplished, or do you think they're things that constantly come back?
I think they constantly come back. Now, again, I think it looks different. The more you work at it, the more you focus on it, right? You can minimize it, right? You can shrink it a little bit. You can, it's easier to sometimes these are just tensions to manage. Yeah. Right. You said earlier, we all have some insecurity. Well, that always comes out when all of a sudden you're trying to be all things, all people.
Yep. Yeah.
And you want to be, because right, we all, no matter your personality type, we all want people to like us.
Yeah.
I call it the junior high dodgeball moment, right? You don't want to be picked last, right? You just don't, you don't want to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Bevan, you were never picked last in junior high.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe somewhere in the middle though.
I had that fear.
Oh,
I did. I had that. Junior high, I was a slow developer.
No arm, just you could kick it.
I could. No, I don't. I couldn't even do that.
I was trying to give you something.
No, it wasn't until my ninth grade year where finally, right. So I have the junior high dodgeball. Don't pick me last. But we all have that insecurity within us, and in our best version of ourselves, we can really recognize it when we get tired, when we get stressed, when failure happens, when things aren't working, right? It really creeps up. And so, managing these pieces, I think, become part of a leader's journey. It's just to go, I'm going to recognize it. I'm going to call it out when it's there, and know that along the way, the more I do that, the easier, right? It's the same thing with conflict.
Yeah.
The more you engage the tension of conflict and have the courage to engage the tension of conflict, the easier it is to make that phone call, to set up that meeting and sit down with that person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy. It's easier.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Is just, you just got to do it and keep doing it and keep recognizing it and keep doing it and keep recognizing it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all your insights on this, Chris. Again, I think this is just so important for any leader, no matter where they're at in their leadership journey. And especially, from my perspective as a younger leader, as someone new to leadership, these 5 insights with the core ideas are everything when you're stepping into leadership. So thank you for all your thoughts.
No, I tell you, I think what I love about even just in the conversation is it's a great reminder to me, right? It's a great reminder to me as a leader that I got to keep focused on these things, no matter, how I grow, how I develop as a leader. Like, it's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And the more we can do that together, right? There's just something about it.
Yeah.
So. Well, it's been great for our Advancing Leader podcast. Bevan, thank you so much for hanging out, drinking great coffee.
Great coffee.
See, only the best coffee here. It's snowing outside. If you're not watching this, it's snowing outside. Welcome to the great Northeast, and so we'll try to stay warm. So it's been great to have you all with us today. This has been the Advancing Leader